You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for a new set of downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Derek here. Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. It is now officially the end of the NFL season. I know I wasn't there for the week of the Super Bowl. I had a car accident that was going on the night before and had to deal with some stuff there. It's been a really busy week, but I'm ready and I'm back and ready to go. And first thing we're going to do, obviously, you all have heard everything there is to hear about the Super Bowl, but we're going to bring it back one more time and talk about how New England has now won their sixth Super Bowl with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and over a 13-3 win over the Rams. The Rams definitely struggled offensively. Both sides struggled offensively with the Patriots coming from behind to win. I guess the first thing to talk about is guys, what are your thoughts on the game? What came out to you guys?
All right, I'll start us off with this because I watched this all with my dad at Super Bowl Sunday, and from what I saw, it was pretty much a good defensive battle, but I like a good, healthy mix of offense, with that defense. It was all defense, and you can just picture the Super Bowl like a cake. You put too much flour in and not enough, milk. It needs to balance itself. Otherwise, you just get, a crunchy cake, and nobody likes that. That's essentially what the Super Bowl was. It was boring to watch. And I know how much people are like, But defense is what wins championships. That may be true, but so is offense. And what I saw was that the Rams were just outcoached and outplayed on almost every single down that entire Super Bowl. The only time they came close was when Jared Goff threw it to Robert Woods in the end zone for almost a touchdown. But McCourty came in out of nowhere, made the biggest play of the game up until that point, and it just looked like Jared Goff couldn't hit anything within a 15-yard area. He just didn't know what to do. And what was up with Todd Gurley? Was he 100%? Was he 50%? Was he 25%? We'll never know because we'll probably never get a straight answer from him. And if you can't get Todd Gurley involved, then you need to have a backup plan to that because Cooper Kupp was gone and we were right. Jared Goff couldn't really perform well without Cooper Kupp. And some people say if Cooper Kupp played, then the whole Super Bowl would have had a different outcome. And Tom Brady, he did just enough to get his team by, like Peyton Manning did in Super Bowl 50. It wasn't flashy play at all. It was just get the Edelman and let's get down the field. And it actually worked. And I think Gronkowski made the biggest play of the game with that catch that led to the Sony Michel touchdown. And that's, the truth. And speaking of Gronk, I think he's going to retire after this. It's clear because his body looks like it's hurting. He looks like he's just losing all, feeling for the game, all the fun for it. He's done enough, and I think if he retires, it's going to be a good time for him because he's going to walk out into the sunset with his head held high and his hand with 3 Super Bowl rings on it.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Toby?
You said it perfectly. It was just a boring game, and I don't even think defensively it was that great of a game. The best group on the field was the New England defense, but even the LA defense, which was hyped up before the game with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, all the other guys, Marcus Peters, and the entire backfield. Where were they in that entire game? They didn't show up at all. They didn't pressure Tom Brady, and they all say that Tom Brady played a great game. With how much pressure they got on Tom Brady, which was basically non-existent in that entire game, I think Tom Brady should actually have done better. So, for me, it was just overall a really bad football game. It was probably the worst Super Bowl I've ever watched. It was one of the worst games that I've seen this season, and we had some games like Arizona Cardinals against the Oakland Raiders. And I put it at about that level of game, which was supposed to be a Super Bowl with the two best teams in the league, which it was not at all. It was just plain boring. And one thing we got to talk about as well is that halftime show during the Super Bowl, which
boy, don't get me started.
it just fitted to that Super Bowl. It was
boring a little bit. I mean,
it was just bland.
There was some good. Travis Scott's part wasn't bad, and like other stuff like that. But like the best part of the whole thing was the short little 30-second SpongeBob intro or memorial that they had into it. That's the best part. That was the only good part.
Why only make it 30 seconds? Just play that damn song.
Play the damn song.
I know.
The whole 2-minute stretch. Just do that. That would have been the best part of the whole game.
Let's transition into sicko mode. Everybody's going to like it. We'll throw SpongeBob up there. The whole internet was not having that.
Yeah.
Did you see the way that Maroon 5 just played it off?
Yeah.
They're just like, we thank our critics. We thank our haters. No, you just know you did a bad job. You just don't want to say it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things I disagree with you, Tobi, on that. And there's some things I also agree with you on. It's kind of ironic that the Super Bowl that I went to 2 years ago was the most offensive-oriented Super Bowl we've ever had, one of the most offensive-oriented games we've ever seen, and literally the only defensive play that happened the whole game was the strip sack by Philly, which won them the game. The one play. And then this game, the one play that actually won New England pretty much the whole game was the Gronk catch. And I'll just dissect this part by part here. Both defensive coordinators need a pay raise because they both had very solid game plans. And credit to Rams defense. They actually did get some decent pressure on Brady, even though a lot of people said, oh, are they actually going to get any pressure on Tom Brady whatsoever? And they had obviously made Brady uncomfortable, made him throw a pick early, all these things. That Rams defense should be proud of themselves for what they did to be able to limit New England to only 13 points. The part of the game the team that should be ashamed of themselves is the offense of the Rams. That was sheer painful to watch by me. It was unbelievable. We were going into this game saying Sean McVay is the new offensive genius. He is the new Bill Belichick. He's the new and young and new brand. And yet, he got held to 3 points. 3 points. And I know Jared Goff, obviously, it's not all on Sean McVay. It's not. But obviously, Sean McVay takes a lot of the criticism here because he's the guy that was supposed to be able to adapt to this. And yeah, Josh, going off what you said about Todd Gurley said he was 100%. He said, I don't know why I didn't play. I don't know why. So you have to blame Sean McVay a little bit there because if Todd Gurley's telling the truth and he was 100%, why the hell was Todd Gurley not utilized more? He touched the ball 10 times. 10 times. That was what happened a couple years back at Ohio State when Ezekiel Elliott had gotten the ball 8 times against Michigan State. Ohio State lost because they tried throwing the ball more than running the ball with their best player, and then you wonder why you lose because you don't put the ball in the hands of your best player. And that offensive line could not handle any of the blitz packages that New England brought in. New England had a really good defensive plan also, just blitzing Jared Goff as much as they could, make him uncomfortable, make the bad throws. So ultimately, yeah, it was, now that I have a week and a half to sit on it, it really wasn't that amazing of a game. It was a good defensive show, but yeah, I'm like you, Josh. You got to have a decent mix of offense and defense because if you have too much of one product, then all of a sudden it just doesn't really seem as interesting, honestly.
I will say this, though. I did get my 5 extra credit points in Dr. Kobe
that's right.
for picking the New
No,
England
you
Patriots.
have no idea how mad I was when I picked Atlanta to win that game and then New England won and I didn't get my 5 points. I am so heated about that still to this day. That's so stupid. Atlanta,
28-3.
screw you, man. And how fitting that one was in Atlanta too.
Wait, wasn't that the year where the Cavs came back 3-1 and the Cubs came back 3-1?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was.
It was. It was.
It was some really good years. Yeah, some really
Yeah.
good sporting. All right, so now we're going to go to the news around the NFL. There's been a lot of NFL news these last 2 weeks. More will come pending the free agent deadline. But the first one we're going to get into, which happened earlier this weekend, the Kareem Hunt to the Cleveland Browns pickup. Now, obviously, we all know why Kareem Hunt was out of the league in the first place with the video surfacing of him shoving and hitting a woman, even though nothing was ever brought up. Basically, it's not a talent argument. I think we can all agree that Kareem Hunt has the talent to be in the NFL, no questions asked. But it becomes a moral argument, and I think the ultimate question is do you guys think Kareem should be in the NFL, and do you support the Browns' decision to pick him up?
Yeah, I'm gonna take this one right now. I believe there have been way worse examples than Kareem Hunt for what players did off field, and they still continue to play in the NFL. Of course, everybody got a suspension for it, and Kareem Hunt will definitely be suspended for at least part of next season, which the Browns, they know it. We don't need to kid ourselves. The Browns know that they won't have Kareem Hunt for probably at least half the season next year. So I still think it's a great pickup for the Browns, even with all the off-field issues. I mean, they are experienced with off-field issues with players. Just look at the whole Josh Gordon saga in Cleveland, and which still continues in New England. So they know how to handle off-field issues more or less well. So I feel like it's a great place for Kareem Hunt to be there. He's getting the support he needs to. And of course, for the Browns now having a running back tandem with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a little bit too early. You know, it was only 3 months out of the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially because you had people like, Ray Rice, who has done everything to atone for what he did, and now it's past his time. I think that I'm all for second chances, but I think Kareem Hunt should have taken a year off and look at himself in the mirror and say, how can I do better, so I do not make the same mistakes I did. I get what they are, like what the Browns are doing. They're going for more of a talent thing, but you got to also take into consideration the fact of what he did. If we're willing to blackball Ray Rice from the league, then how come nobody's? I guess what I'm trying to say is he should start to make up for what he did, and let that be sit out half the season. Give some of his paycheck to like a charitable donation that supports like a battered women's shelter. Something that fits the crime. And I just have like I said, my biggest problem is just that he hasn't done enough to vouch for a actual signing. And I know the Browns are just looking for talent to bring in, but to get Kareem Hunt 3 months after he was found on video beating a woman, or hitting a woman, it's just a bit early in my opinion. I think they should have just waited it out and then just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the really tough issue here is was it too soon? Should they have done it at all? I mean, it's kind of weird just because a lot of people bring up the other names. In particular, a name that's brought up a lot recently is Joe Mixon. People keep saying, why does Joe Mixon get that second chance? Well, I think we can say Joe Mixon deserves the chance because, one, he was suspended for a year at Oklahoma because of this incident. He's done community service. He's done charity work with women's organizations in Cincinnati. They've made him do that. They've made him turn his personality around and get to the point of, oh, wow, what I did was really, really stupid, and I will never do it again. And I think he's become a better person because of that. I mean, the tough part with me about Kareem Hunt is that not only did, he do that, but he lied about it first. I mean, he lied about it. I mean, of course, you really don't want to tell the truth when it comes to a situation like that, but you lied to your organization. You lied to the team that you were supposed to represent. This is you guys. This is representing their brand, and you flat out lied to them and the league saying you did not do this. And there's conclusive video evidence to prove you did. And I mean, that's what sticks with me just as much, is that once a liar in a situation like that, most of the time that sticks with you, and they really don't change. Because, I mean, let's be honest here, Kareem Hunt is our age. I mean, it's not like he's a 30-year-old or 35-year-old human being that's, wised up. I mean, he's still a kid. He's still figuring his world out. I mean, you could say that, going back to Cleveland, back where he was originally from, and being near a hometown team, that might help him, steer him, and keep him in the right direction. I mean, me personally, I'm on board with you, Josh. I don't like that the Browns did this so early. I don't. I think that Kareem Hunt should have paid his dues first, and I didn't buy his apology. I don't think that an apology right after a traumatic thing just happened means that you are sorry. As much as I think he might be sorry, I'm not going to buy it. It's just, at the end of the day, yeah, I'm up for second chances too. If you do the right thing for the rest of your life to make sure that you try to make up for that. I know a lot of people say, he should never be allowed back in the league or allowed to do anything because of what he did. And I can understand people who think that way. I do agree with the people who say that he deserves the second chance, and I do agree he does, but I needed to see a little more before he got re-signed, because I felt like it was a little too soon. All right, well, now we're going to shift to a little bit lighter side of the NFL news, and it actually is something that happened today, with Adam Schefter reporting that Joe Flacco has been traded to the Denver Broncos. And it is still undisclosed whether what actually Denver is giving up for Joe Flacco. It's believed to be a mid-round pick, maybe a couple other picks, but those details are not for certain just yet. But what we do know is that once March 13th comes around, Joe Flacco will be an official member of the Denver Broncos. So what are your guys' thoughts on the trade that the Broncos made?
I'm actually all for this trade because it takes out the need for the Broncos to find a quarterback in the draft, because this draft class is very quarterback light when you think about it. You only have Dwayne Haskins, Kyler Murray, and Drew Lock as the big three. So taking care of the quarterback I still think he's pretty decent, He's not elite, but he's decent, So I like this one because he just fits their scheme. He's a drop back passer. He doesn't really run all that much, but when he does, he can try. But I just like him because he's a snap back, just drop back and throw. You can put that on a T-shirt: snap back, drop back, and throw. There we go. I mean, anyway, back to the topic. So I'm all for this one. Does it give the Broncos a better edge in the AFC West with Kansas City and the Chargers? Maybe. I think they moved up to third place, depending on how the Raiders do. But I still got the Chiefs and the Chargers ahead of them. So as far as we know right now, Joe Flacco is going to be a pretty decent Broncos quarterback.
Yeah, Josh, I gotta agree with you on one point that Joe Flacco is still a pretty good quarterback. The only issue I have with it is the situation in Denver right now. They traded away Demaryius Thomas last year, and they don't really have that big receiver on their roster anymore for Joe Flacco. So I feel like it's kind of the same situation he had in Baltimore this year, where he didn't really have that one guy in his receiver core or tight end that he could throw to. So I feel like it's just the same situation, but in a different jersey for Joe Flacco. So I I love for Joe Flacco to be a starter back in the NFL again and not sit behind Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. But I feel like the team doesn't do him any favors with who they got on their roster. I hope they can make some moves in free agency or in the draft to make life little bit easier for Joe Flacco. But with how the roster looks right now, he's gonna have a tough time up there in Denver.
Yeah, and Tobi brought it up. I mean, that's really the issue here is that does Joe Flacco going to Denver make Denver any better of a football team? Well, to say that even if Joe Flacco even wins the starting position, which we mostly assume he will, but we don't absolutely know that for a fact yet. Even if they put Joe Flacco in, does he make them any better of a team? By very little. It's not, they are many pieces away from getting to be very good. They need a lot on the offense. They have a running back that they have for the future, I think. But they really don't have a marquee receiver. Their offensive line is average at best. So ultimately, what else is Joe Flacco going to do? Now, in regards to what they gave up for Joe Flacco, that's a pretty good pick. If they did indeed give up a fourth round pick for Joe Flacco, then ultimately that's a really good trade, because at least you know that you have some quarterback competition for next season. But at the end of the day, Joe Flacco going to the Broncos doesn't bring them any closer to winning the division. Not even bringing them closer to getting second place in their division.
You want to know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
The other horrible back in San Francisco when Alex Smith, the veteran, got chased out by the young one wearing number 7, or
Yep.
And he goes to Kansas City and it does great. So what's up with the Harbaughs chasing their other quarterback to the AFC West? I'm just going to say that.
And I think that Harbaugh is making the right decision here to go with Lamar Jackson, because I think that you know that for the next 10 years, hence Lamar Jackson doesn't get severely injured like Robert Griffin did. If he continues to do what he's doing and he can progress as a passer, then Lamar Jackson's going to be a great quarterback for the Ravens in the future. But yeah, Denver getting Joe Flacco, it also makes you wonder, do they really trust Case Keenum? And that could be an issue because, listen, the quarterback situation in Denver is a complete joke. There's so few other teams that have had a worse collection of quarterbacks over the last 15 years than Denver has. Take away Peyton Manning for those 4 years that he was there. I swear to you, the Denver Broncos might have had the worst collection of quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, because you had Brock Osweiler, who couldn't keep the job. Yeah, Paxton Lynch couldn't do that. Lossweiler is what we call him, and when he was with Texans, yes. They Case Keenum really didn't do too much now. I could keep going with this, but
there's one you missed.
Oh. What's that? Which one did I miss? I missed that.
Yeah, I think you muted yourself.
I just froze, but I just said that. Oh my God, it did it again. Shit.
You're good. You're up.
All right. Okay, there we go. We're back. Sorry about that, folks. I just said you're missing one of the winningest quarterbacks they had in a while, Tim Tebow.
Oh, remember that? God, no. Don't even bring that name up. He went to one playoff game, and everyone's got a boner for Tim Tebow. I don't understand it. Skip Bayless is one of them.
Because he's so nice.
Yeah, he's so nice. He's
Yeah.
a great guy. That's the great thing about him. But yeah, ultimately, when it comes to Joe Flacco, I mean, is it a good signing? Yeah, it's a good signing if you're the Broncos, but it's not like it makes them any better. They need to really start getting some free agents and really need to draft well this year to make themselves any better. All right, so now we're going to move on to the mock draft. Tobi has his filled out.
Actually, before the mock draft, you forgot it again, Derek. We got the prediction results. And as you guys know, if you follow us along the season, we have given our predictions for each week so far that we did the podcast. And we have shown you the results of the regular season in which Derek and I tied for first place. So we extended it to an overall score to the playoffs, which at the end saw the same result as after the regular season. Derek and I tied for first, and Josh is one game behind. He actually caught up in the playoffs one game, so Josh won the playoffs with a record of 6-5, one game ahead of me and Derek with a record of 5-6. The overall scores for the season, Derek and I had a 88-51 prediction rate, and Josh 87-52.
Not bad, boys. Not bad.
Not bad.
So tell me, what game was it that set us apart in the playoffs?
For me, it was the Super Bowl, and Derek, I believe, had the Ravens, I think.
No, I think I had the Chargers beating the Patriots, I think.
Yeah, something like that. It was a Chargers game. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was one of them. Yeah. So Josh got on the Tom Brady bandwagon and just started beating everybody with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took that bandwagon. I drove straight to Foxborough. That's how it went.
All right. Well, now that you all have seen that Tobi and I are obviously the best at this, we're we're now going to go on to the mock draft. It'll be the last thing we talk about here. We're going to just basically talk about what we think might happen in the draft. Tobi's got his entire mock draft ready to go. I'll probably have one here soon once I see a little bit of other stuff. But some of the biggest stories have obviously been, where does Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins end up? Does Kyler Murray actually end up at number 1 with the Arizona Cardinals, given their coach's relations with him? Or do the Cardinals swallow their pride and go with Nick Bosa? Or do maybe the Cardinals decide to trade their first pick with another team who wants to get Nick Bosa, and then decide to trade Josh Rosen to get Kyler Murray there? There's a lot of things that could happen there. Josh, we'll start with you. What are some things that you think might happen in the draft?
All right, I'm kind of thinking that the Cardinals will trade their pick with the Raiders for like 2 of the Raiders' later first-round picks. I can kind of see that happening. Some reason I got the Packers trading again, like they always do in the first round. It's like their own meme that they don't want to draft in the first round. Trading up that pick with the I got them trading with the I don't know. I just got them trading,
Mm-hmm.
I know you're coming to me for like wise advice here on a podcast, but I just can't think of a reason why that the Packers would trade, because they won't. Because we're all used to the Packers trading their first round pick. Remember last year with the what was it?
With the Saints, yeah.
Just get closer. That goes out to you, Jake, if you're listening here. I got the Packers picking up their normal spot. But I do have Dwayne Haskins going to the Giants. He just kind of fits their scheme better. And I think that with the Raiders' first pick that they get from the Cardinals, like I predicting, they get Kyler Murray and move on from Derek Carr. And just start out fresh. And I see Kyler Murray, he's like, 5'10"? He's going to be the shortest quarterback ever drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if he can throw over 6 offensive linemen with ease, he's going to make it far in the NFL.
Yeah.
But because you don't turn away from like $5 million from like the Oakland A's, and just go like, I'm going to try football just because. No, it's because you're good at it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah. And with that, with the Raiders having, I believe, the second pick in the draft, or is it the third?
The Raiders have the fourth
pick. Wow, man, they could have just gone the rest of the way and just got that second pick. But I got the Raiders taking, Devin Bush, the middle linebacker from Michigan, right there. Because they need that linebacker help. But with the Colts, and I hope that this is going to happen because I really hope so. I hope they get Greedy Williams.
Williams, huh?
Or that Lawrence kid from Clemson, that defensive tackle.
Oh, Dexter Lawrence.
Lawrence, yeah. I want those two people. So please come to Indianapolis. Ballard, if you're listening to this, those are the two people I want.
I can tell you this with almost discerning. I think that Dexter Lawrence will definitely be gone before the first 25 picks. I can tell you if there's any defensive linemen out there that deserve it, he's one of the top 3 best defensive linemen in college. Debatable if given pass rushing, but he's pretty close. So I don't know. There's been a lot of things. We didn't necessarily think Malik Hooker was going to be available at the 15th pick when we drafted him. So, just we'll have to see what happens. Toby, why don't you break down what you got?
Yeah, I got my mock draft right here, and you guys gave some sneak peeks into yours that are coming up in the next weeks before the draft. So now my mock draft 2019 1.0. With the first pick, the Arizona Cardinals, I can't see them going with Kyler Murray, even with the love that he got from Kingsbury before their college game against Texas, Oklahoma against Texas. So I'm going with Nick Bosa at number 1, edge guy from Ohio State. With the second pick overall, the San Francisco 49ers also go with an edge rusher, Josh Allen from Kentucky. So 2 edge rushers going off the board at number 1 and 2 for me. At number 3, the New York Jets will go with an offensive tackle because I think they have to protect their young quarterback in Sam Darnold with Jonah Williams from Alabama.
Okay, yeah.
At number 4, we have the Oakland Raiders, as said before. I see them going with a defensive lineman and another edge rusher in Cleveland Ferrell from Clemson. Kind of a replacement, a lesser replacement for Khalil Mack. At number 5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry, Josh, he will not be around for the Colts. Is Greedy Williams from LSU.
Dang.
They need their help in the backfield. So for me, in the top 5 picks, 4 defensive players, only 1 offensive line player going off the board, which is kind of crazy, but this draft is really defense heavy. And at number 6, we're going to the New York Giants. A lot of people have the first quarterback going off the board right here. I see the Giants actually going with a quarterback in free agency. I could actually see them going for Nick Foles now that the Eagles don't have a say in who they can trade him to now that he's a free agent. So I kind of could see Nick Foles in a Giants jersey. So I see the Giants at number 6 going with a defensive tackle in Quinnen Williams from Alabama. Because, they need a better rush in the middle. With their defense, they had kind of a problem to stop their opposing offenses in passing and in rushing this year. Then in number 7, I have the first quarterback going to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. He's the best quarterback in this draft. At number 8, we have the Detroit Lions going with Dante Thompson from Alabama, safety. Detroit just needs a lot of guys in the backfield. That's one of their biggest needs up there. The defensive backfield kind of covering that pass. from their opposing offense. At number 9, the Buffalo Bills. They are getting a receiver for their young quarterback and DK Metcalf from Ole Miss. First wide receiver, I don't know if he would be a first-round guy, but I believe that it's just one of the big needs for the Bills. So they kind of have to get him because I don't think with the teams that are picking ahead of them in the second round, he will probably not be around in round 2 for the Bills. They might have to trade up for that if they go with a different player and want him in the later picks in the first round. They have to trade back into the first round with some other picks. At number 10, the Denver Broncos. I don't have them picking an offensive player right here. I think they have to get someone in their defensive backfield now that they got rid of Aqib Talib. So they are going with a cornerback in Byron Murphy from Washington. At number 11, we have the Cincinnati Bengals going with an inside linebacker in Devin White from LSU. I mean, Cincinnati has a lot of holes in their roster. Nowhere that they can go wrong with in that pick, because they have to improve at about every position. At number 12, the Green Bay Packers, they are going with an edge rusher. They need an edge rusher. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where they select a defensive tackle at that point, but I believe the Packers need an edge rusher more in Monty Sweat from Mississippi State. So this could be a big upgrade for a struggling Packers defense. At number 13, Miami, I believe, again, is a team that needs a wide receiver. I see them going to Kelvin Harmon from NC State. Given their quarterback, it might be Ryan Tannehill, it might be somebody else. Better target than what they currently have on their roster. At number 14, I know quite a big fall off for him, but Ed Oliver is going to the Atlanta Falcons, defensive tackle from Houston. At 15, Washington, they need a quarterback, and that's where Kyler Murray is going in my draft. Kind of a gutsy pick for Washington there, but I believe they need a quarterback, and Kyler Murray might be that quarterback for them. That, because we don't know what Alex Smith, if he can play ever again, he's probably have to sit out the entire next season, so they need somebody else other than Colt McCoy and all the other guys, Mark Sanchez, that they had playing this season. So I'm giving them their young quarterback that they need in Kyler Murray. At number 16, the Carolina Panthers have a need at edge rusher, so they go in with Jahjai Polite from Florida in my mock draft. At number 17, the Cleveland Browns, they are strengthening their defensive backfield with DeAndre Baker from Georgia, cornerback. At number 18, the Minnesota Vikings are going with a defensive tackle to better their defensive line in Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State. The Tennessee Titans are going with another offensive player, kind of a rarity in my mock draft, with a wide receiver, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside from Stanford. Okay. Sorry about that slight technical glitch in that podcast. At number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going with the cornerback, Trayvon Mullen from Clemson. Now we're back again with the right picture on the broadcast. At number 21, the Seattle Seahawks are going with Rashawn Gary, defensive tackle from Michigan. At pick 22, the Baltimore Ravens, they need a running back, so I'm going with Josh Jacobs from Alabama for them. And now, I don't know if this could actually happen. Houston is also in need for a running back, so I think that Houston will take the other Alabama running back in Damian Harris. So 2 running backs from the same school going back-to-back to Baltimore and the Houston Texans. The 24th pick is the pick for the Oakland Raiders. that they got with the trade with the Chicago Bears and Khalil Mack. There, now that they have an other edge rusher with their 4th pick. At number 24, I think they are going with a wide receiver in A.J. Brown from Ole Miss, the replacement in this case for Amari Cooper. At number 25, the Philadelphia Eagles, they need an offensive tackle. They struggle a little bit with their offensive line this season. That's the one thing where they kind of decreased in performance, I think, compared to their Super Bowl season last year. So I have them going with David Edwards from Wisconsin. At number 26, that's your guys' pick with the Indianapolis Colts. I have them going with a defensive tackle, Christian Wilkins from Clemson, going to the Colts.
I like that pick. I do like that one. That's actually a pretty good one.
At number 27, we have the Oakland Raiders again. This time, it's the pick from the Dallas Cowboys that they got for the trade with Amari Cooper. And in this one, I see them getting a new QB to replace Derek Carr. Drew Lock from Missouri is going to Oakland. Let's see if they actually pick up a QB or if they want to go ahead with Derek Carr. Or they might actually get someone in free agency. I doubt that, but we'll see. With the 28th pick, the LA Chargers, they need some help in the backfield. They have a great offense right now, but they have a need at safety. So I have them going with Nasir Adderley from Delaware. At the 29th pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, we have talked about this before on the podcast. Kareem Hunt is not on their roster anymore, so they have a hole to fill at running back. So I have them going with David Montgomery, running back from Iowa State. At the 30th pick, the Green Bay Packers again, the pick that they got from the New Orleans Saints for the trade at last year's draft. The Saints got Marcus Davenport for them for that pick. I see the Green Bay Packers going with an interior linebacker in Tavon Coney from Notre Dame. That's another big need for the Packers right now, other than the edge rushing position, is the inside linebacker. At number 31, the LA Rams. Nobody knows if they can sign Ndamukong Suh again, what their plan is with their cap space. So I think they're going to release Ndamukong Suh, so they are drafting a new defensive tackle. I have them going with Zach Allen from Boston College. Could be a great guy for their defensive scheme, and with Aaron Donald on that line, playing opposite to him, could be a great way to start off for a rookie. With the last pick in the first round, the New England Patriots, I also have picking a defensive tackle, and I have them going with Draymond Jones from Ohio State. So that's it, my 32 picks for the first round in this year's NFL draft. That's my first mock-up. Of course, that'll change over time when free agency hits and when we get the actual stats from the NFL Combine. So we're gonna do a mock draft every other week now on this podcast. Of course, you guys gonna have the next one going on the next episode, I think. But yeah, now we're back to the normal podcast. And yeah, I think we are through with what we had to talk about, or you guys got something else you want to bring up to the attention of our listeners?
I will talk a little bit about this mock draft. I think I agree with you that I think Draymond Jones might actually be a big name that the Colts are going to look at. I agree with you that defensive tackle, the pass rush, is the biggest need for our team right now. I agree with you that Oakland's going to try and go straight for a defensive end player because they absolutely need that to replace what they lost in Khalil Mack. I agree that, the Chargers need some more defensive back help. Kansas City definitely needs a running back to replace Kareem Hunt. I do agree that the Jets are going to go tackle. I think that they do think that they need to protect Darnold. The ultimate thing I think is going to happen is, as much as I don't want this to happen, I think it's going to happen. I think Haskins is going to go to Jacksonville. I think the Giants.
Yeah, I have Haskins for Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like as unfortunate as poor soul of the GM with the Giants thinking that he thinks Eli Manning has more left in the tank, which he truly doesn't. I'm sorry to say.
Phil Rivers has more.
They're gonna go with an offensive line this draft because I think they saw what the Colts did and they're thinking if we add another piece or two to this line, then it makes it decent for Eli Manning to go. So I don't think they're gonna go with a quarterback there. And yeah, I think that Washington might still be one of those teams left that trades for a quarterback. I could see Nick Foles going there. I could potentially even see them getting Josh Rosen from Arizona. That could be one thing I'm looking at. And then, like I said, Draymond Jones, I think, would be going to Indy. And then another thing, I think New England is another team to look out for that might look to sign Rosen.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I got one thing we can leave with the audience for our next one.
All right.
All right. Everybody, this goes out to like you two there. What we'll do for the next one is we'll try to look at the draft and then come up with a sleeper pick, and we'll have to defend that sleeper pick, or like come up for reasons why they're going to be a sleeper pick. We'll save that for the next podcast.
Okay.
Because I already have one, but I won't share it with you till the next one.
All right.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for this podcast. Thanks a lot, guys, for doing this with me again. It's good to be back. Good to be doing this stuff again. So thanks to everyone watching. I know it might not be exactly what you wanted to hear with the Super Bowl again, but we're going to make sure to deliver some good mock drafts for you. We're going to be definitely keeping up with this. So be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to follow us both on Spotify and follow on Tobi's YouTube channel, where this will be uploaded soon. And again, subscribe to PewDiePie because we need to get him back up there.
We're doing our part. How about you?
We're doing our part. Yeah, what about you? All right, thanks, guys.
Sure. See ya.